Hi friends, I here again welcome you to the show English Vinglish. I hope you're enjoying the videos uploaded by Adda 247. Now for today I have chosen a topic that is relative pronouns. Why have I chosen this topic? Because it is the most confusing topics, or it has a maximum amount of confusing errors when it comes to sentences. Why? Because these are the words just similar to interrogative pronouns. We have who, what, which, whose, whom in interrogative pronouns, and similar to it, we have them in relative pronouns as well. So let's have a look why is it used in relative pronouns. Now if I talk about relative pronoun, what is it? Relative pronouns means, the word relative means whenever we have a word or a noun which has to be related to the other part of the sentence, that is relative pronoun. So what are relative pronouns? A word which joins its antecedent to the other part of the sentence. Now for this, to understand the meaning of this sentence, you need to know what is antecedent. And before beginning with antecedent, I want to ask what is ante, A-N-T-E, what does this mean? Now don't tell me ante means against, because that ante is A-N-T-I, which means against. And here A-N-T-E is given, which means before. And antecedent means noun used before. Whenever we have a noun used before a relative pronoun and we have to explain something about that antecedent only, in that case we use relative pronouns. Now I'll be repeating all the rules in Hindi as well. So the meaning of this sentence is, एक ऐसा शब्द जो अपने से पहले यूज होने वाले नाउन के बारे में कुछ अपने दूसरे पार्ट में बताएगा, उसी वर्ड को हम बोलते हैं relative pronoun. ठीक है. Now let's begin with the usage of relative pronoun. What are these? Who, whom, whose, which, what and that. Now you must have seen these words in interrogative pronoun as well. हमने इन words को interrogative pronouns में भी पढ़ा है, लेकिन यहाँ पे ये एक relative pronoun का काम करेंगे. Here they will work as a relative pronoun. Now what is the difference between interrogative and relative pronoun? Interrogative means that question, that sentence forms a question, but relative pronoun never forms a question, right? ये ऐसे शब्द हैं जो यूज होंगे रिलेटिव प्रोनाउन में, और रिलेटिव प्रोनाउन इंटरोगेटिव प्रोनाउन में डिफरेंस क्या होता है? जब हम इंटरोगेटिव प्रोनाउन की बात करेंगे तो वो एक क्वेश्चन फॉर्म करेंगे, और जब हम रिलेटिव प्रोनाउन की बात करेंगे तो वो कभी क्वेश्चन फॉर्म नहीं करेंगे. ठीक है, चलिए लेट्स बिगिन विद द यूसेज ऑफ हु. वेयर इज हु यूज्ड? व्हेन वी हैव टू रेफर टू द subject. Whenever we have a subject in the sentence and we have to refer to the subject, in that case we will use who. For example, we can see, this is the girl dash was wearing a red dress. So what shall we place here? अगर हम इस सेंटेंस की या हु की बात करें तो हु वहाँ यूज होता है जहाँ पे हमारे पास सब्जेक्ट दिया हो और सब्जेक्ट से ही रिलेटेड कोई वर्ब उसके बाद दिया हो. ठीक है, उसी से रिलेटेड वर्ब होना चाहिए. Whenever we have a subject, whenever we have a noun, that is the antecedent, and we have a verb after the relative pronoun related to this noun only, in that case we will place who here. Fine. Whenever we have an antecedent and the verb used here is according to the antecedent, in that case we will place who here, right? That means we are referring to the subject. जब भी हमारे पास एक noun होगा, noun से related कोई verb होगा, उस condition में हम क्या लगाएंगे? यहाँ पे who का use करेंगे. ठीक है. Now let's begin. Whom का usage कहाँ होता है? Next is whom. with who I told you we have to refer to the subject. Here we will refer to the object. When we refer to the object. जब हमें ऑब्जेक्ट के साथ रिलेशन बताना होता है तब हम किसका यूज़ करते हैं? व्हेन का यूज़ करते हैं. ठीक है. अगर हम इस सेंटेंस की बात करें, चलिए हम एक सेंटेंस एग्जाम्पल के तौर पे लेते हैं. हम कहते हैं, यहाँ पे लिखा है, दिस इज द गर्ल डैश आई मेट इन द मार्केट. Now when we were using who, I told you that we must have a verb here according to the subject only, but in this sentence if we talk about it, you will not have a verb. You will have a verb, but you will not have a verb related to the antecedent. In that case we will use whom here. So the verb used here is according to the object. Now in this condition we have used whom. क्या कहना है? अगर एक सेंटेंस है, एक सेंटेंस में आपका एंटीसीडेंट दिया हुआ है और जो वर्ब दिया है, लेकिन वो वर्ब किससे रिलेटेड है? ऑब्जेक्ट से रिलेटेड है. यहाँ पे हमने वर्ब गर्ल का नहीं दिया. जब हम हु का यूज़ कर रहे थे तब हमने गर्ल के लिए ही कुछ लिखा था, लेकिन यहाँ पे जो सेंटेंस लिखा है यहाँ वर्ब आई के लिए है जो कि ऑब्जेक्ट है. इस कंडीशन में हम क्या यूज़ कर रहे हैं? हुम का यूज़ कर रहे हैं. अब सपोज करिए इन दोनों में से सेंटेंस कंबाइन करके आ जाता है. इफ वी हैव अ सेंटेंस कंबाइंड विद दीज टू सेंटेंसेस विच इज लाइक दिस, दिस इज द गर्ल dash I met in the market was wearing a red dress. This is the girl dash I met in the market was wearing a red dress. Now here you can see we have combined both the sentences I met in the market and was wearing a रेड ड्रेस. यहाँ पे आप देख सकते हैं कि हमने दोनों सेंटेंसेस को जोड़ दिया है. पहला क्या है? आई मेट इन द मार्केट, और दूसरा क्या है? वॉज वेयरिंग अ रेड ड्रेस. इस कंडीशन में आप क्या यूज़ करेंगे? व्हाट विल यू यूज़ इन दिस कंडीशन? यू विल यूज़ whom here. Is this correct? No. Why? Here you saw met, here you saw an object and you placed whom, but this is incorrect. Why? If you move forward in this sentence, we have a verb given was wearing a red dress. Now who is related to this verb was wearing? We have the antecedent given over here, that is the girl. That means you have a verb that is related to the antecedent. In this condition we will not use whom, instead we will place who here. So if you have a sentence like this which explains the objects just after the relative pronoun, but you have a verb for the antecedent, in this condition you will place who. इफ़ अगर ऐसा कभी होता है कि हमारे पास सेंटेंस आया है, रिलेटिव प्रोनाउन के जस्ट बाद ऑब्जेक्ट दिया हुआ है, लेकिन उसके बाद आपको देखना पड़ेगा अगर वर्ब दिया हुआ है और वो वर्ब किससे रिलेटेड है? एंटीसीडेंट से, नाउन से. तो इस कंडीशन में आप किसका यूज़ करेंगे? हु का ही यूज़ करेंगे. ठीक है, चलिए आगे बढ़ते हैं हम हुज़ के यूज़ पे. हुज़ का यूज़ कहाँ होगा? थर्ड इज हुज़. Where will you use whose? Whose is a word which questions the possession, the ownership of something. Whose एक ऐसा word है जो question करता है ownership को या possession को, belongingness को, कि इस पे किस चीज़ का अधिकार है. तो जब भी हमें अधिकार की बात कर रही होगी तब हम किसका यूज़ करेंगे? whose का. Whenever we have to talk or we have to refer to the possession or ownership of something, in that case we will use whose. So what does it show? It shows the possession of a living being. ये एक बहुत बड़ी कंडीशन है जो इसके साथ एसोसिएटेड है. अ लिविंग बीइंग, इट्स अ कंडीशन विच इज एसोसिएटेड विद दिस. व्हेनेवर वी हैव टू शो द पोजेशन, द ओनरशिप only of a living being, in that condition you will use whose with it. For example, if I say this is the boy dash car was stolen yesterday. Now tell me, what should I place here? Car is given, the boy is given. The boy is our antecedent. Now in this condition, car is given over here and the ownership of this car, we have to show the ownership of this car. हमें इस कार की ownership अधिकार बताना है किसके साथ? With the boy. We have to show the ownership of this car with the boy. In this condition, what shall we use? We should use whose. Why? Because I told you whenever we have to show the ownership, possession, belongingness of a living being, which is the boy, in that condition you will use whose. Now suppose if I give you something as a non-living being, for example, the boy is replaced by the house or the book. In that condition what will you use? There comes the usage of which. अगर हम suppose करिए यहाँ पे क्या करते हैं, बॉय की जगह पर कोई नॉन लिविंग थिंग का यूज कर देते हैं, तब हम किसका यूज करेंगे? वहां पे हमारे पास यूसेज आता है किसका? विच का. ठीक है, तो फोर्थ इज विच. फोर्थ टाइप ऑफ रिलेटिव प्रोनाउन, फोर्थ काइंड ऑफ रिलेटिव प्रोनाउन इज विच. ये कहाँ यूज होगा? इट शोज द पोजेशन. इट ऑल्सो वर्क्स एज a possession holder in a sentence, but of a non-living being. Got it? हम इसके साथ भी किसका यूज करेंगे? ये भी पोजेशन दिखाने का, ये भी अधिकार दिखाने का ही काम करेगा, लेकिन यहाँ पे किसका अधिकार बताएगा? नॉन लिविंग बीइंग का. ठीक है, नाउ लेट्स टेक एन एग्जाम्पल. द बुक डैश आई बॉट इज केप्ट on the table. Now tell me here, the book which I bought, now bought I is given and you have to show the possession of this book with I. आपको यहाँ पे I का के साथ अधिकार दिखाना है book का. तो book यहाँ पे antecedent is a non-living being. In this condition we will use which here. Why? Because book is a non-living थिंग. हम यहाँ पे क्या कर रहे हैं? बुक का यूज, बुक के साथ विच का यूज क्यों कर रहे हैं? क्योंकि बुक एक एंटीसीडेंट है और एंटीसीडेंट का पोजेशन दिखाना है आई से, लेकिन एंटीसीडेंट हमारा नॉन लिविंग है. इसी कंडीशन की वजह से हम किसका यूज कर रहे हैं? विच का. गॉट इट? नाउ नेक्स्ट इज व्हाट. अभी तक हमने जितने भी सेंटेंसेस देखे उन सब में हमारे पास क्या था? एक एंटीसीडेंट जरूर था. सो फार we have seen the sentences, all the sentences had an antecedent with them. But what? Where is what used? Where antecedent is absent. What is used wherever we don't have an antecedent. जहाँ पे भी हमारे पास antecedent मतलब कि noun का use नहीं होगा, there we are going to use what. अभी तक जितने भी pronouns थे या जितने भी relative pronoun थे, सबके पास एक antecedent ज़रूर था. But what is there? What doesn't have an antecedent? For example, if I say I can guess what he must have done. Now in this sentence you can see I can guess what he must have done. I told you we shouldn't have an antecedent here, but we have guess placed here. I told you we shouldn't have an antecedent, but we have placed guess here. हमने कहा था कि यहाँ पे antecedent नहीं होना चाहिए, जहाँ antecedent नहीं होता वहाँ पे what का यूज़ होता है, लेकिन यहाँ पे तो guess दिया हुआ है. If I ask you what is guess, what is the meaning of guess? Guess का मतलब क्या होता है? अनुमान लगाना, एस्टिमेट करना, और जहाँ पे लगाना, खाना, करना, पीना, इन सब चीज़ों की बात आ जाती है वो क्या कहलाते हैं? Verb. Wherever we talk about the doing words, guess is to estimate something, and whenever we talk about doing words, they are known as verb. And I told you an antecedent should be a noun. So the usage of what is correct here. Fine. So whenever we have a sentence which doesn't have an antecedent, which means it doesn't have a noun before the relative pronoun, in that condition we will use what here. For example, we can take one more sentence. What or whatever is taught to you till date is of great value. Now you can see this sentence doesn't form a question. Be it starts with what. ये सेंटेंस what से स्टार्ट हो रहा है लेकिन फिर भी एक क्वेश्चन फॉर्म नहीं कर रहा. इसका हिंदी मीनिंग क्या होगा? Whatever is taught to you till date is of great value. जो भी आपको आज तक पढ़ाया गया है उसकी बहुत वैल्यू है. So, इस कंडीशन में ये स्टार्ट what से हुआ है. In this condition it has started with what but it doesn't form a question. So whenever we don't have an antecedent which is a noun, in that condition we will place what, and what is correct here. Now the last is that. Where is that used? That का use कहाँ करेंगे? That के 4 अलग अलग uses हैं. कहाँ पे हम that का use करते हैं? आइए हम देखते हैं. We have 4 different uses of that, and where will it be used? We will look at it. Okay. Now let's begin with the uses of that. The first is with the adjectives in superlative degree. Whenever we have an adjective that is associated to the antecedent and that is in superlative degree, अगर हमारे पास कोई adjective दिया है और वो adjective किसके साथ लगा है? Antecedent के साथ लगा है उस condition में, और वो superlative degree में दिया हुआ है. जैसे tallest, smartest, strongest, ये सब क्या है? Superlative degree. अगर superlative degree का adjective antecedent के साथ mention है उस condition में हम किसका use करेंगे? That का use करेंगे. Like kites is the worst movie dash I ever saw. Now please don't be offended. अगर आपकी ये बहुत favorite movie है तो आपको बुरा नहीं मानना. Kites is the worst movie dash I ever saw. यहाँ पे ऐसा sentence लिखा है. And what should be placed in the blank? What shall we place in the blank? We shall place that here. Why? We have an antecedent, that is movie, and antecedent is preceded by an adjective that is in superlative degree. That is why we have placed that here. यहाँ पे हमारे पास एक antecedent है जिससे पहले क्या लगा है? Worst. Worst का मतलब सबसे खराब, that is the superlative degree of bad. In this condition we have used that here. Fine. Now let's move to the second rule of that. Now so far, whatever sentences we have used, we had only one antecedent in that. But there are conditions when we used pair of antecedent. कुछ ऐसी conditions भी होती है जहाँ पे हम pair of antecedent का use करते हैं, लेकिन अभी तक जितने भी हमने sentences use किए हैं या जितने भी हमने relative pronoun use किए हैं, सबके साथ सिर्फ एक ही antecedent था. अब pair of antecedent कहाँ आएगा? Where will you use pair of antecedent? Now whenever we talk about pair, one should be a person and the other should be an animal or a thing. जब भी हम pair of antecedent की बात करेंगे उस condition में एक person होना चाहिए और दूसरा animal या फिर कोई non living thing में से कुछ होना चाहिए. ठीक है. Let's take an example. If I say the man and his cat dash are generally seen were absent today. We can say are absent today. Now tell me what should we place here? The man and his cat dash are generally seen are absent today. In this sentence you can clearly see we have two antecedents. The first is the man, which is a person. Second is his cat, which is an animal. यहाँ पे आप देख सकते हो कि हमारे पास दो antecedents है, एक man जो कि person है और दूसरा cat जो कि एक animal है. तो इस condition में हम क्या लगाएंगे? That का use करेंगे. We are using that here because we have a pair of antecedents and the one is a person, that is man, and the other is a cat, that is an animal. तो जब भी ऐसी condition आती है हम किसका use करेंगे? That का. आगे बढ़ते हैं हम that के तीसरे usage पे. चलिए हमारा थर्ड यूज ऑफ दैट है. द थर्ड यूज ऑफ दैट इज व्हेन द सेम, द सच और an indefinite pronoun is given. If we have the same, the such or an indefinite pronoun given with the antecedent, in that condition we will use that. अगर हमारे पास सेंटेंस में antecedent के साथ the same word, the such word या फिर indefinite pronoun दिया हुआ है तो उस कंडीशन में हम that का यूज करेंगे. ठीक है, लेट्स टेक एन एग्जाम्पल. इफ आई से दिस इज द गर्ल डैश आई मेट इन द मार्केट. नाउ दिस इज द सिमिलर सेंटेंस एज वी यूज्ड इन द यूज ऑफ हु, बट यहाँ पे here we will use that with it. Why? There is a difference. If I add same here, suppose if we don't place same here, what we'll use is who. If I don't write same here, we'll use who. अगर हम यहाँ same नहीं लिखते हैं तो हम किसका यूज करेंगे? who का. लेकिन सपोज करिए if I write same here, अगर हम यहाँ same लिख देते हैं, एंटीसीडेंट के साथ क्या मेंशन है? the same. तो इस कंडीशन में यहाँ पे who का यूज गलत हो जाएगा. यहाँ हम क्या लिखेंगे? that. If I write the word the same with the antecedent, in this condition who will be wrong and we will place that instead. Fine. Let's take one more example. There's a very famous phrase, all that glitters is not gold. हर चमकती हुई चीज सोना नहीं होती. तो यहाँ पे अगर हम लिखते हैं all dash glitters is not gold. Now in this sentence, can you tell me why are we placing that? We place that here, but why do we place that? Because that is placed according to all, which is an indefinite pronoun. जब भी हमने क्या कहा? जब भी हमारे पास the same, the such या indefinite pronoun use होगा, उस condition में हम that का use करेंगे. In this sentence, we are placing all, which is an indefinite pronoun. That is why we have placed that here. Now, to make it more specific, what is an indefinite pronoun? Anything or any word which cannot define the particular amount or the particular subject, in that condition we use indefinite. Suppose someone has stolen your purse. Now you don't know who has stolen it. So in that condition, what do you use? Someone has stolen my purse. So that someone is indefinite. So that is why whenever we have indefinite pronoun, in that condition we place that. जब भी हमारे पास कोई ऐसा word होता है, जैसे सपोज करिए हम बोले किसी ने आपका पर्स चुरा लिया है, तो ये किसी आप ये नहीं बता सकते ना कौन है. तो इस कंडीशन में आप क्या लगाते हो? someone लगाते हो. क्यों? क्योंकि आपको ये नहीं पता कि जिसके बारे में आप बात कर रहे हैं वो कौन है. Whenever you are not sure about the subject, in that case you use indefinite pronoun. And whenever you use indefinite pronoun, the relative pronoun used with it is that. तो जब भी हम indefinite pronoun का यूज करेंगे, उसके साथ जो relative pronoun यूज होगा वो क्या होगा? that. अब हमारा आता है लास्ट यूज that का. लास्ट that कहाँ यूज होता है? Where is that used? The last usage of that is when the sentence starts with an interrogative word. Whenever a sentence starts with an interrogative word and you have to place a relative pronoun there, what will you place? अगर हमारा कोई sentence interrogative word से start होता है तो उस condition में अगर आपको relative pronoun लगाना है तो आप क्या relative pronoun का use करेंगे? कौन से relative pronoun का use करेंगे? वहाँ पे use होता है आपका that. If you have a question and it has to be used with a relative pronoun, you have to place a relative pronoun there. What will you use? You will use that there. For example, what is there dash is impossible for my father. There is a question. What is there? Dash is impossible for my father. This sentence starts with an interrogative word. Now, what is interrogative word? Interrogative words are those words which questions the subject or questions the entity. Now, here, what is questioning? My father. So, here, what is used as an interrogative word? And whenever a sentence starts with an interrogative word and you have to place a relative pronoun here, what you'll do is place that. जब भी सेंटेंस की स्टार्टिंग एक इंट्रोगेटिव वर्ड से होगी, इंट्रोगेटिव वर्ड का मतलब क्या हो गया? वो वर्ड्स जो कभी भी सेंटेंस में अगर यूज होंगे तो वो एक क्वेश्चन फॉर्म करेंगे. यहाँ पे व्हाट कैसे यूज हो रहा है? फादर को क्वेश्चन करने के लिए. तो इस कंडीशन में हम क्या यूज करेंगे? दैट का यूज कर रहे हैं. जब भी सेंटेंस की स्टार्टिंग इंट्रोगेटिव वर्ड से होगी तो हम किसका यूज करेंगे? दैट का. ठीक है. Now students, I would like to tell you this is the end of relative pronoun. Fine. Now I want to discuss something very particular with you. If you have a question in a sentence or you have a number of rules when you practice for error detection, what do you do? What do you do when we talk about error detection, or how many rules should you learn? There are certain important topics that you need to focus when you are solving the questions of error detection. जब भी एरर डिटेक्शन की एक्सरसाइज आप सॉल्व करने जाएंगे तो कुछ ऐसे क्वेश्चंस होंगे जो आप बहुत सारे रूल्स हैं, एन नंबर ऑफ रूल्स हैं, आपको नहीं पता कितने रूल्स होंगे और कितने आपको लर्न करने चाहिए. तो कुछ स्पेसिफिक टॉपिक्स हैं जिसको आपको पर्टिकुलर होना है, जिसके बारे में आपको सारे रूल्स पढ़ने हैं. तो एक तो आपका रिलेटिव प्रोनाउन, क्योंकि इसके जो क्वेश्चंस आते हैं वो सबसे ज़्यादा कन्फ्यूजिंग होते हैं. वाई? बिकॉज यू डोंट नो वेयर टू यूज़ हु, वेयर टू यूज़ वॉट, वेयर टू यूज़ विच. Now, if we talk about after relative pronoun, you need to focus on tenses. Then you have subject, verb, agreement. ठीक है? Subject, verb, agreement. You need to focus on this. This is also known as syntax. If someone tells you syntax practice करना है, तो don't get confused. Syntax is subject, verb, agreement only. Fine. After that, adverb. And be very particular about prepositions. Prepositions can be used with every word, and if you use it with a word, in that condition it can change its meaning. For example, if I say give up, तो उसका मतलब क्या है? Give up means quit. लेकिन अगर हम बोलते हैं give off, which means produce, अगर हम बोले improvement in, and if I say improvement on, so these are the words which change the meaning of the word which they are used with. For example, we can say deal in or deal with. When we use deal in, it means the goods and services that person is dealing in. And if I use deal with, it means the partner of that person in the business. So prepositions are the word which can change the meaning of the main word. So be very particular about the prepositions, where to use it and where not to use it. Fine. So you need to focus on these particular topics if you are practicing error detection, and I don't want you to learn the rules. हम ये नहीं चाहते कि आप रूल्स को लर्न करें. लर्न करने से कभी भी रूल्स याद नहीं होंगे. I want you to practice as many questions as you can. जितने भी questions आप practice कर सकते हैं, question करिए practice, ताकि आपको exposure मिले, so that you can get the exposure, and if you get the exposure, you'll be able to find out the error, and the errors should be miscellaneous. Topic wise solve करना बंद कर दीजिए, miscellaneous आपको solve करने हैं. ठीक है? So you need to be very particular. I hope you liked it. If you liked it, please subscribe our YouTube channel to be up to date. And the next live show will be by Gopal Anand. That is the general awareness show for banking examination. And with examination, I would like to wish you all the very best for your examination tomorrow. Thank you.